Greetings. Welcome to another installment of Lunch and Learn from the National Alliance for Direct Support Professionals, and it's our series that is going deeper into each one of our competencies, and we're doing it in a kind of a conversational and informative way in uh, a short little presentation. This week's is on something called organizational participation. And I think we're going to shed some light on what that is and how important that is for direct support professionals. But before we begin, here we are. This is I'm the guy on the right. That's me, John Raphael. I'm the Director of Educational Services at the National Alliance for Direct Support Professionals, and my friend and colleague, Mr. Dan Hermick, to the left.
I'm the guy on the left. Hello, John.
Hey, Dan. And Dan always dresses nicer than me. As you can see, he's got a tie. And he's whatever. But we are very glad that you're joining us today. Those of you that aren't familiar with the National Alliance for Direct Support Professionals, we've been around quite a long time, a couple decades, and we're really driven to this primary vision and mission. We want to make sure that direct support professionals are recognized. We want to improve their practice. We want to change the system in which they practice, and ultimately we want to advance the knowledge, skills, and values for direct support professionals through all the things that we do at the NADSP, training and membership and policy work. So that's our mission. We're pretty much we're very focused on the direct support professionals in the United States and North America. I don't know, Dan, this is we've been talking about this a lot lately. Dan and I have been doing some training. So Dan, what do you think about this Venn diagram?
Well, that's what it's all about, John. You're going to see this almost any time you participate in anything from the NADSP. We believe that to provide quality at the point of interaction, a direct support professional needs three things. That's illustrated in this Venn diagram. If you're not partial to Venn diagrams, you can think of it as the three legs on a three-legged stool. But you got to have all three. You got to have knowledge, skills, and values. And really, in this series, we're really focusing on the skills, the NADSP competency areas, but the knowledge and values are going to come into play all the time, really.
That's right. That's right. There's the definition. If you get any correspondence from pretty much any of us at the National Alliance for Direct Support Professionals, our founder, certainly our ideological founder, John F. Kennedy Jr., said this many years ago, that quality has to be defined and is defined at the point of interaction between that staff member and the person with a disability, the person that's receiving services. And that's what we're about. And that's what I think the rest of this Lunch and Learn session is about, how we can be actually involved in our organization that we're employed by, but that doesn't mean that we're not taking anything away from the person that we're supporting, and that's what we want to clarify with this competency that we're going to go into. There they are, right, Dan. They're the NADSP competency areas, and
the NADSP competency areas, and we're in area 11 this month, organizational participation.
And I would say, I dare say, Dan, I don't know if you would agree, this is probably one that's, not if it's misunderstood, but I think it's not one that's kind of out in front. I think direct support professionals are obviously, they're going to be probably more inclined to be doing empowerment and crisis prevention, hopefully, and supporting health and wellness. I think that's at the forefront of their day every day. But this organizational participation thing, what the heck is it? And I think that's what we're going to hopefully shed some light on.
I think DSPs, I mean, they understand when they're using communication, when they're using advocacy. Sometimes the organizational participation will happen without the DSP even thinking about it as a competency.
That's interesting, yeah. And let's get to it. Let's get after it here. So there it is. That's the statement. This is the actual competency definition, and we're going to follow up this definition with the four skill statements that will help clarify what is this organizational participation thing. So there it is. The direct support professional is familiar with the mission and practices of the support organization, and participates in the life of the organization. So that's interesting, right? I think most direct support professionals in North America are employed by a provider organization, as it might be called, or a support organization. And they can be small, they can be big. Some organizations are 3 people, some are literally thousands of people. But what an organization is, it's an entity devoted to some mission, right? And so that said, most DSPs, direct support professionals, they're going to be working in the context of an organization. And I've worked in several organizations over my life, and every one of them, especially human services organizations, they have a mission statement. They have to have a mission statement, a vision statement. Even well, let's look at our the National Alliance for Direct Support Professionals. We have a mission statement. This is what we do every day. And I know Dan and I happen to reflect on this mission all the time because that's part of our role in terms of educating and credentialing and certifying people in our field, and training people. I mean, this is what we live, eat, and breathe. And it's interesting, I think, the way that the competency is defined. The direct support professional participates in the life of the organization. And it sounds like obvious, but
Yeah.
I, I don't think it's as obvious as direct support professionals might think. I think they don't think about it enough, in my opinion. I don't know about you, Dan.
Yeah, I mean, I think what this says to me is that the DSPs should be involved. And we'll talk about through the skill statements all the different ways that a DSP could be involved in their organization.
Hmm.
Um, but there is a tendency, I think, to really focus on the person or the people that you're supporting, and sometimes just think about the organization as, the way the paycheck gets signed.
Right.
But we
Right.
want DSPs to contribute and be involved in the organizations they work for.
Hmm. Hmm. And if anything, we hope that those of you that are listening or watching this, understand that we want you to take these skills, these competencies, what we're talking about, and bring them to the people that are the decision makers in an organization. And those are often administrators, and maybe even executive directors and that kind of thing. And that's okay. They want your feedback. I really believe that. We speak to administrators and directors and executives all over the country, and they truly, if they really are worth their salt, they're going to want to hear from you. They're going to want to know what goes on at that point of interaction, which you have the luck and the honor and the responsibility to be at that point of interaction all the time with the people that you support. So um, I think some of the supporting skills coming up here will help you get there. So here's the first one, right? This is interesting. The competent direct support professional contributes. You said that word before, Dan. We want people to contribute. So the competent direct support professional contributes to program evaluations and helps to set organizational priorities to ensure quality. Um, Direct support professionals, man, you see it all. You see the underside, the top side, the back side, the front side of an organization. You see it. You're in the weeds, right? And with that said, who better to offer, I think, things that can be improved or suggestions,
Right.
um, when it comes to certainly performance evaluations, but other kinds of evaluations, whether they be um, maybe household surveys. I know this. We're in the land of checklists, right? And sometimes those checklists are silly. Sometimes we have a checklist for a checklist, and then that checklist has a checklist, and that is just bananas. It makes no sense. And sometimes it's the direct support professional that say, you know what, we don't have to have a checklist for this checklist. And what that can do, if it's stated in the right way, respectfully to administrators or quality assurance people or whomever, You can pare down some of the extra, you know, kind of the wasteful uh, kind of stuff that you have to do, right? I
Yeah,
don't know. What do you
absolutely.
think?
And I think another way to say that is, DSPs have a lot of information. They know when things are going well. They know when things are not going well. Um, they know when maybe the services aren't to the liking of the people that they're supporting, and changes are needed.
That's right. And I think the voice of a direct support professional is often it's louder than they think. I really believe that. I think maybe not in all organizations, but I think most organizations, I think direct support professionals, when they assert themselves and state their concerns, they're heard. I really believe that. And I'm hoping that those that are listening to this that are direct support professionals feel that. And if you don't feel that, then I think you might, just maybe look at where you're working. Maybe you want to change that. But that said, let's go to the next one, which is interesting too. I think they're all quite interesting. Um, this is something that I think it's kind of obvious, but let's go after this. The competent direct support professional incorporates sensitivity to cultural, religious, racial, disability, and gender issues into their daily practices and interactions. Now, look, man, this is, we represent the National Alliance for Direct Support Professionals, which primarily our audience are people from all over the United States, one of the most diverse countries and societies on the planet, if not the most. And we have problems with that, don't we? I mean, we still struggle with diversity in this society, and that we're not making a political statement as much as we're making a statement that because we live in a diverse place, um, and again, uh, our our organizations are microcosms of our cultural diversity. That said, direct support professionals are working alongside um, a vast array of different people with all these different qualities, and the image there coexist, right? I think I've seen that on 1,000 bumper stickers over the years. I try to live that way myself, but I think direct support professionals have an obligation to live that way when they're at work, because their workplace, especially when it comes to disability and the diverse nature of working with people with disabilities, intellectual disabilities and otherwise, um, that has to be at the forefront. Um, and so, Dan, anything you had to
Yeah.
add?
Uh, yeah, and I would just echo that and say, not only are we a diverse nation, but I think the direct support workforce is probably more diverse on average than our nation as a whole. And certainly disability exists among all sorts of, cultural, religious, and other groups. And so DSPs need to be um, comfortable and sensitive to all those differences.
Yes, I think so. And I think when we look at the current um climate of our current events, and I think we have laws that are being changed, that are for whatever reasons, laws are being changed that might not be in the favor of people with disabilities. Funding is at risk. All these different things, but I think ultimately DSPs, direct support professionals, have an obligation to make sure that they're celebrating diversity in the workplace and calling out discrimination and calling out any other issues that might be discriminatory or against what that statement says. Um,
Absolutely.
you know, um, this is interesting. The competent direct support professional provides and accepts coworker support, participating in supportive supervision, performance evaluation, and contributing to the screening of potential employees. Ah, I wish I did this when I was doing direct support more than I did. Um, right? Right, Dan? I mean, because
Right. Yeah.
imagine that, you had some say in that person that was going to be working alongside of you. That's not necessarily always the case. For direct support professionals, they suddenly, oh, there's the new staff member instead of orientation. Wow,
Yeah.
who hired them? That kind of thing can be at play. And when you look at this, I think there's two things, right? There's accepting coworker support, but also kind of participating.
Right.
That's different than accepting. That participating, you don't come with a problem unless you have a solution, so to speak. Um, I think the frontline supervisor relationship with direct support professionals it's a two-way street. Goes in two directions, and I think that's very important that the direct support professional understands that they have an obligation, obviously, to be supervised, but also to give that supervisor feedback. Um, and I think ultimately performance evaluations they tend to be they don't tend to be based on competencies as opposed they're based on attendance and following policies, which that's fine. Please do that. But I think any direct support professional that has listened to us and our message can even informally go back to their supervisor and say, hey, look, could you please help me understand how I'm doing in these areas? And give me feedback on my competencies in these 15 different areas. That costs no money. You don't have to change any policies. It's just having a conversation with your supervisor. So what do you think of that?
Yeah. No, that's great. And I think this is the skill statement that really exemplifies that, involvement that we want from DSPs in the organization. DSPs work as part of a team and not always just a team of other direct support professionals. There's other professionals that might be employed by the same organization.
Yep.
There might be physical therapists, occupational therapists, there might be a nurse. Um, and DSPs need to be able to work with all those other professionals to best support the people that are supported by the organization.
Yeah. 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 Well said. Lastly, um, the competent direct support professional provides input into budget priorities. Imagine that. Identifying ways to provide services in a more cost-effective manner. And this goes back to what you said, Dan, early on. DSPs have information. They've got tons of information about the operations of where they're working. We were talking before we started the webinar. Um, vehicles.
Vehicles are huge.
There's so many ways that you can cut costs when it comes to vehicle maintenance and being a steward of the agency vans or cars or whatever. I don't know if you have any examples of that, Dan. Trying to
Well,
think
I mean,
myself.
just, there's so many things that you're aware of when you drive a vehicle, right? It's pulling to the left, the oil light is coming on the dashboard. The temperature gauge is running a little hot. And often when those things are dealt with quickly, they're much less costly to deal with than if they're allowed to linger for a while.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I'm thinking of also, because some organizations and obviously the people supported in provider organizations, they often are poor. They're on some type of public assistance or Medicaid or whatever. That's often the case. That's how they're funded to be in support settings. It's not only being kind of cost effective for the organization that you're working for, but maybe you're helping food shop. Um, Maybe cut coupons with the people that you support. And not only will it help their budget, but it'll, and maybe teach them how to use coupons and that kind of thing, but also for the organization. Maybe you can save the organization money when it comes to food budget and supplies and that kind of thing. It's those little things that they do add up. And
Yeah. And
and
John, I know something you and I have talked about a lot is, one of the most costly things happening within most human service organizations is turnover. And
Yeah,
so anything a DSP can do to kind of mentor that new coworker, and support them, and help them feel comfortable in the job, and to keep them around for a longer period of time, I mean, that's a huge impact on the budget.
yeah, yeah. Oh my gosh, yeah, that's such a good point. Such a good point. And but I think hopefully what you've seen or and heard in this last few minutes, as related to this thing called organizational participation, I hope that you have some better insight as a direct support professional. That you do have you're a larger figure and a louder voice than I think you might feel. And we are here to tell you you have a responsibility to be part of the life of your organization, and your organization needs you as much as you need the organization for employment. And the organization ultimately needs you because you're the one that are ultimately making the mission happen, and that mission is going to be 10 times out of 10, how do you support people to have really great lives? And that's what you do. And you do that through the vehicle of an organization. So hopefully you've got some more insight to organizational participation. Oops, if you have any questions or comments or anything related to today or anything related to the National Alliance for Direct Support Professionals, there is our contact information. And we're glad you joined us today. So hopefully I had a good lunch and learned. And Dan, thank you.
Thank you, John, and thank you, everybody.
Okay. Take care, everybody.